Right, this is how to get started on your weaving. Okay, so you have your loom, which holds the warp, which are the vertical threads, and you have a long-ish piece of yarn that is going to be the weft. This is what we're actually going to weave over and under all of our warp pieces. So again, this is the loom that holds the weaving. The warp is vertical, and the weft, which rhymes with left, is the piece that you use to weave over and under right to left or left to right. Okay, so I'm going to show you just a simple way to get started. Once you get the hang of it, you just go on your own. And if at any time you need to stop and rewind the video, feel free to do that. So what you're going to do is, just so that we kind of do this all the same way, I'm going to have you do exactly what I'm doing. So your loom is vertical, your warp is vertical, and then you have this piece of yarn right here. I want you to find the end of it and kind of spread it out. You can't see this, but I'm spreading it out on the table so it's not tangled or in a knot or anything like that. And I'm going to take the end, and the very first thing that I'm going to do is pick up this right hand piece, and I'm going to go under it. So I am taking my yarn and I'm going under that very first piece on the right side. And then I'm going to go over, which means my yarn that I'm weaving with is laying on top. Okay, so over just means it's going over it, it's laying on top of it. You don't have to do anything to that piece. And then I'm going to pick up the next one, and I'm going to go under, over, which means you don't do anything to it, under, over. So you can see the pattern. It's under it, on top of it, or over it, under, over, under, over. And then I need to take all this and move it to the left. So think of a snake in the grass. It's going along in the grass and it's moving, and it is slithering to the other side. So we are going to pull. You can kind of speed up, and if your yarn does this where it kind of gets in a little tangle, just take a moment and try to stretch it back out so it doesn't get in a knot. And you keep pulling and pulling and pulling until, kind of slow down when you get to the end, until you get to where you're about like this. We want to leave just a little piece hanging out, and then you're going to bring it down. Okay, so I brought it all the way down. Now I'm going to pick up the end again. Now all of my yarn is on the left side, left, right. Okay, it's on the left side. It's sticking out over here on the left. So when I look at my left hand piece, how did I end? I ended over. It's laying on top of it, which means over. So when I start back, I'm going to start back on this side, but I'm going to start back under. Okay, so if you end over, you always start back under. If you end under, you always start back over. And you start back on the same side where all of the yarn is coming out from. Okay, so I'm going to start back under. So I'm picking up and I'm going under, over, under, over, under, over. Okay, so you can kind of see how that looks. So it is under, over, under, over, under, over. Now, I have got all this right here that I need to make move to the other side. Okay, so again, think snake in the grass, and it's moving along. If it gets wadded up like this, try to straighten it out. Okay, we don't want to get it in a knot. They're kind of hard to get out if you get it in a knot. So you keep pulling and pulling, and go slow when you get towards the end. And what you'll want to do is have a little piece that you can grab, pull down, and then when you pull this extra in, don't pull it tight. You want to leave it a little loose on the edge so that you can kind of move it with your finger. If you can't move it with your finger, it's too tight. Okay, so do you see how I can move that piece? That's really important that you're able to move that piece. Okay, now Now I'm on the right side. So I look at how I ended on the right side. So if I look, I am over. Okay, so do you see how my yarn is laying over on the right side? So when I start back, I'm going to start back under, okay? Because I ended over, I start back under. And I'm always starting, remember, on the side where all of my yarn is bunched up, okay? So I'm going to start under, and I am going to keep working my way across. And pull. Okay, remember I've got a little piece that I can grab. I'm going to bring it down. Now that's too big of a loop, so I'm going to pull just a little bit. But remember, I need to leave it loose enough so that my finger can wiggle it up and down. Okay, and then you just keep going. So you always look at how you ended on whichever side all your yarn is sticking out on, and however you ended, you start back the opposite way. So if you ended over, which I did, I'm going to start back under. And I'm just going to keep working until I run completely out of yarn. So you just keep going. Make sure that you bring it down each time. Make sure that it's loose enough on the edge that you can wiggle it with your finger. That's really important, because if you pull it too tight, it is going to make all of your warp threads kind of cave in a little bit. And we don't want that to happen, because that does not look good. So you just keep working and until all of the yarn is woven in. Okay, so that's it for this one. Next up will be a different video to show you what to do when you need to start a brand new piece of yarn.